Chick, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, excellent. Just kidding. Waiting for a couple people who were TPing over, and all of a
I'm
sudden,
just scared that the voice is going to go away. So as long as I can hear you, I'm ready.
yeah. Well, what's kind of funny is I think that we're live already because we had a whole make sure you cue me. Okay, okay, but wait for me to cue you. And I said okay, but I hadn't cued them, and then they cued me, and then now we're live, and everybody's hearing this right now. It's like live
That's
TV.
okay.
I know, I love it. Okay, so we might as well
Officially
actually
start.
officially start. So, thanks to everyone for coming down on our Friday night of Ekphrasis Live, presented by Prim Perfect and me, a little writer for Prim Perfect, Rowan Derryth. And tonight, I am chatting with the amazingly talented Chic Aeon. So, welcome, Chic. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to chat with you. We've never really actually had a big chat. I think the first time I ever really had a conversation with Chick was after my LEA exhibit, the exhibit I curated called Arrested Development, which was a really big, amazing, wonderful collaborative exhibit. I just had an idea and I let Have It Neox kind of run crazy with it. And had incredible artists, Bruno, Rose Borchowski, PJ Trenton, Stephen Venkman. Now I have to mention them all because feel bad if I don't. Archie, Blue Suki, Eliza Weir White, Trill Zapatero, and Claudia 222 Jewel. I think that's everybody. We had this incredible collaborative exhibit, and God, I don't think it was open for even 3 days. And all of a sudden, I got a link from Chick of this machinima that she made of the exhibit, and it totally blew me away. So I considered Chick to be the kind of missing artist and put the put the machinima out at the exhibit. Um, and I've just been a huge fan of your work. So before we get to kind of how you came to machinima and everything, can you tell us a little bit about how you first discovered Second Life and what made you log in and what made you stick around?
Oh, I had some real life friends, and they had been at Second Life for a little while, and they kept saying how much fun it was, and and so eventually I made it over, and I was very happy to have a little help along the way because there is a learning curve. There's more of a
Oh yeah.
learning curve now than there was, when I joined, but even back then there was so much that you had to know and things to stay away from and things to go see and everything. So I was very happy to have their help. And from there, it just kind of became like a second home, and I'm here more than in the real world most of the
Well, you're one of the lucky people who have the luxury of doing that, I guess.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, and that's really nice. I think when you're able to do that. So you had people who kind of showed you the ropes. So were you, once upon a time, I think when I was young, someone told me about the stages of being an avatar in their opinion. And it was something like, first you explore, then you build, I don't remember what it was. So did you have any kind of
Uh,
particular stages or anything like that?
um, all that I can remember about my early life really was camping for hair a lot. I did a lot of camping for hair. Obviously, I was already in the fashion mode,
Uh-huh.
and and answering trivia questions for money. And back then, that's what you did. There
Yeah.
were things were different back then, and if you have a if you're new, you kind of missed a part of history. And when I was looking at the SL10B history board and all that, of course, there was a big period of time that I missed. When things were
Hmm.
really, really, really new. And every once in a while, I run into somebody who's like 7 or 8 or 9. And it's
Right.
really amazing. It really is amazing, and it would have been wonderful to be here um, back then. But I wasn't, so I have my history from when I got here.
I'm sitting here looking at your profile now to see when your res day was actually, and of course it's taking forever to load. So when did you come in? 2007. Ooh,
Just
on New
barely.
Year's Eve,
And no, it was New Year's Eve day. I was not bored.
right?
I actually people make a joke about, well, you had nothing to do on that New Year's Eve,
I know,
but
it's terrible, isn't it?
it is kind of. I didn't think about it at the time, but it just happened to be that way. I wasn't trying to get it under the wire or anything, but
Well, I
it's been
think
a
it's
long while.
yeah, I mean, I think I was close to the holidays, not too far. I think it was November or something in 2009. Is that right? And I think it's a time of year maybe where things slow down a little bit and you're taking a little more leisure time.
Sure, yeah,
Because
that's
actually
true.
you're not the only person I've noticed who has a res day on like a Christmas Eve or a New Year's Eve. Maybe people get new computers too and want to play around with
Well, I can't even remember that part. That could have been part of it. I don't remember.
it. So you were camping for hair. I do remember seeing camping things even a couple years later when I rezzed, and I certainly remember the trivia and sploders and all that kind of stuff. Those are things that I think are still out there somewhere.
Well, there's a little, but not like there was. I don't think.
They should have had us to exhibit like that out here, sort of like
There
trivia
may
and
be one out here. It's so big.
I know that's true.
It's really almost impossible to see it all. And I was here early building my little exhibit over there, so I got a little preview. But still, there's an awful lot to see here this year.
When I think of you, for me, your name is definitely Machinima, but actually, you've been a blogger for a much longer time. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely, that's right. Yes,
That was
and so
was that your
it
kind of
depended.
first?
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just asking you, was that kind of your first thing that you did here in terms of, what you
That was
did in
pretty
resident?
much aside from camping for hair, yes, that was pretty much the first thing I did. Somebody found me. I was wandering around. Back then, there was a lot of free things. You'd come by and get a free dress a week, and that has kind of disappeared now. But so I was at a place getting the free dress of the week, and somebody at a blog saw me in the dress, and I evidently looked better in the dress than she did. She ran the blog, and she says, "Can I take your picture?" And from there, I ended up on their blog for a little while, and then and then I graduated to my own, a couple months after that. So
So,
3,100 posts.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking through it earlier and they're really good. Did you sort of craft your avatar then to be a model? I mean, did you kind of transition? You said you were kind of discovered on the street almost.
I think it was kind of an accident. Aside from being tall and making my arms way too long at the beginning, and they still are very long, I didn't have any plans for that. But yeah, it just kind of happened. But I liked it, and I blogged before in real life, and so I had some background there. And I certainly didn't have background in Second Life fashion, but you learn over time. And if you go way back in my blogging archives, you can see that it was really pretty awful at the beginning.
Well, I think we all are. I think that happens. We evolve and our writing gets
Hopefully,
better, our
we
pictures
improve.
get better.
Yes.
Well, hopefully we improve. No, I think your avatar is absolutely stunning. Really, really beautiful. Um,
Oh, the name of
so,
sorry, there's a little message here. It says the name of the blog is Chick at Phil's Place.
oh, okay.
Or you can
Great.
find it in my You can find anything you want to know in my profile. Just look in my
Yes.
profile.
Yes,
It's an
yes,
open
yes.
book.
Chick Fil A's. I'm actually going to be making posts with these sort of recorded interviews at the end of the week, and I'll put links to your blog, all of your
Oh, that'll
blogs
be
and
good.
everything. So
Yeah.
yeah. So when did you start getting into machinima then?
Well, it must have been a little bit before 2 years ago because the first really important machinima that I can remember making, I'm sure there must have been some more if I look back at YouTube, I could find them, but was one for the University of Western Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Called Shades
Yep.
of Grey, and it was basically most of the film was all in black and white. Well, it wasn't actually black and white, but it was very muted tones, and that's the kind of the first important work. Let's put it that way.
I remember that
Um,
actually.
so that was a couple years ago. So maybe 2.5 years. I don't actually remember exactly.
I actually remember it, and it was really wonderful. So that was your first foray. And had you done anything like that before? Did you make films, just real world films, home movies, or anything
I
like
did
that?
have. I was with the film group in real life for a while. It was a small film group, and we all had all the jobs. So everybody did a little bit of everything and took turns, and which gave me a very good background, really. But one of the things that I didn't get to do in that film group that, in theory, I was supposed to get to do was editing, because I always thought I would really enjoy editing a lot. And so when I finally got into Second Life, and then for a while, my computer just couldn't do it. I knew that I would probably really enjoy making machinima, but my computer wasn't up to the task. And so eventually I got a new computer that could handle all that you have to have in order to make machinima. And from there, I just started out slow and moved up. And I really do, and I enjoy the whole process, but I probably like editing the best, I think.
I enjoy that too, actually. I just don't have the time, but I would love to do more. And actually, my computer is not good enough to shoot the film, personally. So I'm really envious of all of you guys who can actually cam smoothly. I've tried it and it was a nightmare. What do you recommend? If someone wanted to go ahead and start making machinima, what do you think is the minimum that they need in terms of equipment and things like that?
Well, I'm not really up on the hardware these days since I won't be shopping for another computer for another 6 months. But
Mm-hmm.
the important thing is to be able to get your frame rate up. And basically 15 frames per second is kind of what you need to do in order to make any kind of smooth camming. But there are lots of different ways that you can get around that. You can make your screen smaller. You can turn off shadows. Probably if you're worrying about getting a new computer, you can't run shadows anyway. But you can go through lots of different things to make it easier. And you can go ahead and practice making machinima. You can get a free copy of Fraps, which works just fine, but has a logo watermark thing on it, which costs you nothing. So you can practice even though you don't have a computer that will do what you want it to do, and you end up with very tiny little movies, but it's still practice. So you can always work on things like that while you're waiting for the computer fairy to come with a new better one. You can also just working on your photography skills. I think helps a whole lot.
Yeah.
Understanding how wind light works and getting your own custom wind light settings and doing. You could spend a whole year just doing pre-production, with ideas and places and all sorts of things while you're waiting so that you can get a better computer and actually do it. Or you can work with other people. You can do
Hmm.
the part that isn't filming. There's lots and lots of jobs, in order to make a film. And most of the time as a director, we get to do all of them. Except of course if we've got 5 actors, that's not going to work. But most of the people that I know pretty much do most of the jobs themselves. Collaboration is wonderful, and some people do a wonderful job with it. But most of the time, the folks that I know are just kind of solo artists, more or less, and get their friends in now and then, for parts that need to be plate and things like that. So there's lots of jobs that you can do in machinima that you don't have to have a fancy computer for.
That's a great way to think about it too, and I want to talk about that a little bit more when we get to the machinima open project, open studio project. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you your opinion on some things, because I've had the opportunity to chat. Last year, for example, I had Chantal Harvey and Tony Dyson on the stage, and I've talked to Chantal a couple times, and one of the things that came up in our conversation is the idea of creating narratives in machinima, and the challenges, obviously, that you have. So first, what in your opinion are some of the challenges to making machinima?
Well, first there's the hardware challenge, which we already talked about.
Right.
And then, well, I don't want to make a segue into the Machinima Open Studio project yet, because I know we're not ready to go there. But
we can be organic.
But that is one of the big deals, finding some places that you can shoot a film that photographs well. You can be a very good machinimatographer, and if you don't have any place lovely to film in, it makes it difficult to have your film look good. There's a production value thing that you don't have to think about it, and you can make a perfectly good film without it, because there are some award-winning films that don't have great production values. But if you can have great production values and a good idea and wonderful actors and voice, it just makes the whole thing better. So that's kind of one of the challenges. We have our everyday SL challenges, we all know how those go. And so sometimes the database won't let you put on your alpha layer like today and things like that. So
then you get creative.
Then you get creative, and you have the little teddy bear sitting in front of you. Yes.
That's right.
Who moves just a little bit, I noticed, when I move, but not too much. So we did a pretty good job with that at the last minute.
I know, that's brilliant. I noticed that too. He's just kind of scooting around.
Yeah, he's a friendly little guy. So I think that there are actually less challenges now. There's more places to have your film shown. Mm-hmm. University of Western Australia and MOMAC and the LEA archives, there's lots of places that you can integrate the movies into Second Life, aside from just YouTube and Vimeo and places like that. So, and there's more places that they can get seen in world. And so in some ways, some of the challenges are getting easier.
What about the challenge of acting? How do you find that? How do you deal with that?
Well, I don't actually act.
Or dealing
with most of my films are basically, somebody asked me, I was just talking to somebody the other day, just, I didn't know. See, she thought I was a blogger. She didn't know I did machinima. See, so it depends on what world you're coming from.
I do kind of walk in both worlds.
I wear a lot of hats these days. Yes, I do. And so she was asking me what kind of films, and I said, well, they're usually kind of arty and kind of philosophical, but I kind of think of myself more of as a cinematographer. I'm coming from a photography background, from all those blog posts. And I love wind light and the shadows and all that. So that in a lot of ways, that's my focus. I don't normally, for example, when I filmed Arrested Development, I had no idea what I was doing when I was going in there. I just went in and filmed. And that was the LEA, for those of you that might have gotten here a little bit late, that was a very lovely exhibit that was there for a very long time. And my most viewed machinima, still.
Fantastic.
Anyway, so I filmed the whole thing, and I had no idea what I was going to do with it. I just wandered around and filmed everything I could think of, and kind of put it together. I still had no idea where it was going, and then I let the film tell me what the story was. And that's typically how I work. I don't really have a shot list or frequently even a plan.
That was really exciting though too, to watch that, because like I said at the start, I had this idea for an exhibit and I went to have it and asked him to kind of be the master builder, the architect of it all, and then he took the idea and ran with it and actually created a narrative, created a story that was going to be the basis of what we all worked with. And so what was really exciting when I watched your film was that you actually made a different story, which was
I
really
didn't even know you had a story.
yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
I didn't know there was a story, so of course,
Yeah, yeah.
I did. I probably would
But
have
no,
made my own story anyway.
I think that's great. And I think it's a testament. It was lovely because I think it was a testament to the good work that all the artists did, that you could walk in. And you weren't the only one. There were several machinima made there, actually.
Right.
In fact,
Mm-hmm.
it was even before it came down a couple weeks ago, Drax, you took Rod Humble, Rodvik wandering through it. So that was nice too. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess not using actors is a way around that issue because, well, we're sitting here right now and we're on live stream, and I know they're using the lip movement, and it's not really lip syncing right to the words, and we're sitting here getting drunker and drunker apparently as we're drinking. And
I'm having
yeah,
tea. There's no liquor in my
spiked.
teacup.
So, I think that's one of the hurdles of Second Life, and that's one of the things that Chantal and Tony have talked about before too, that you have to really think, and Peter Greenaway too, when he gave the lecture or the sort of keynote speech at the UWA machinima competition. That was the one you were in, yes, I believe. It was a couple years ago. He talked about how people should be making films thinking about um, this medium, that we shouldn't necessarily be trying to replicate reality. But then there are other people who are making television programs and everything that are. So, I mean, have you seen any show? I mean, who do you think, in your opinion, is doing the sort of acting thing really well? Oh yeah, Freewee it was 2010. Thanks.
There were some that I saw quite a while ago that I was very, very impressed with, but I don't remember who made it. And most of the films that I end up watching actually are films more like mine without voice acting, probably because there's more of them out there. The the ones that I often see that I'm impressed with aren't actually made in Second Life because
Oh
in
really?
some of the other venues, there are other worlds where things are easier to make that kind of machinima, and I think a lot of the machinima makers have uh, moved over to where it's a more practical thing to do because we do have an awful lot of when you're talking about that kind of a film, that's more like something you'd see on television. Oh, the people that did Black Mirror, that was
Yeah,
impressive. I like
yeah.
that. That was very
The
good.
Black and Mirror. Y-
But there isn't all that much, at least that I see, around, and I think it's probably because it is so much harder to do.
Are you working in other worlds making films?
No,
Places.
no, no. How could I do that? I'm here every unless I had a really good computer system or two computers, I'm always here, so it's unlikely I could be there too. No, no. At one time I did go over a long time ago before I was doing machinima. I went over to a fledgling world to see how it was, and it was kind of interesting because it was more like I perceived Second Life to be when Second Life was very young, and I missed that, and I thought it would be very cool to understand how that was. So that part of it was good, but we have so much more here, and I really do like beautiful. And a lot of the other worlds, it just really isn't as pretty as it is here.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and so many
I don't
people.
think I'm moving anywhere.
Well, what are some of the other places you did say that some of your favorite machinima weren't made in Second Life? Do you know some of the other places that they were made?
Well, a lot of them are made at The Sims, which I have never been to, and some are made in Movie Storm, which is a software program that I don't have. Those are the two that I see the most often, and they're frequently when they have a machinima contest or an exhibit or something that's all inclusive, there's maybe one or two films from Second Life in it, and then there's a lot of films from a lot of other places, and made in different manners, and they're all machinima. They just aren't what we necessarily think of as machinima when we look at the Second Life version of it. And so some of it is just absolutely fantastic,
Yeah.
and it does seem like that it could be used easily in the real world, but it's right now, in my opinion, while a lot of people would like to be using Second Life for real world things, it really is pretty hard. There was a
But
time
in
when
a,
I was, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
There was a time when I was, uh, well, I thought maybe that I wanted to make movies for other people. And I did that a little bit and figured out I didn't really want to make movies for other people. But along the way, it became very clear that the problem was they had wonderful visions, but there was really no way that that vision could be brought into Second Life because of our limitations in animation and lip syncing and those kind of things. So we can make beautiful, thoughtful, philosophical, life-changing films here. They just can't be what some people think of as the films that they want. So I just think we need to do what we can do, and we can do it
Yeah.
well, and let the other
Yeah.
guys do what they can do well.
That's right. I mean, when I would think of, I've seen some films that were shot in Skyrim that are quite beautiful. I've not seen too many that were shot. I know there's a ton that were shot in World of Warcraft, but I don't think I've watched too many. But what's interesting there is that I think that and maybe others can chime in too. Free, you might know some more about this too. I think that the ones that I have seen, or the clips of the ones that I have seen, the genre of the game dictates the narrative very much. There, where I think a strength of Second Life, well, it's a weakness that can become a strength, is that there isn't anything to dictate it. It's really dictated by the content that people make here and what people like you do with it creatively. And I think it'd be quite freeing in a way if you embrace the fact, if you get away from trying to replicate reality and embrace what it is, then suddenly you kind of set yourself free to do all these extraordinary things.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something I definitely see in your work, and the kinds of things that you do. You've let go of that, and it really works for you. So you're here all the time. What are you doing? Just making machinima and blogging fashion and walking in your different world?
Yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah, well, I'm working in Blender sometimes, and sometimes and sometimes I go on hunts to find things for the Machinima Open Studio project, and I don't know. The days just zip by. Very seldom. I keep thinking that it's going to slow down, but it doesn't ever seem to slow down. So.
Well, that's great. But I mean, so you're working in Blender. What are you doing in Blender? Are you making stuff too? Is that something I don't know?
I just have a little bitty shop. I've had a little bitty shop forever. It's nothing terribly fancy. I make a lot of niche things because what happens is, well, if I back up into last November, I decided I was bored and I needed to learn something new. And so I decided to try and tackle Blender again, which I think is the hardest program I have ever learned, and I've learned some very hard programs. And so I gave myself a month to learn it, and I felt better after a couple weeks, and it's about 6 months later, and I feel competent but not terribly smart. And so now the good thing is when I need something and I can't find it on the marketplace or in a shop or anything like that, most of the time I can make it.
Wow.
That isn't usually my first choice, but if I really need something and I really want something, then I spend the time making it. And then the things that I make for Mosque end up in my little shop, with very nichey things. And a few people here and there need those little nichey things too, and it works out great.
That's brilliant. And I think
so it's way down on my list.
It's not your first thing you do, but also an incredibly important skill, because I think that most people who are, they're not that they're I don't think there's anyone here who's a one-trick pony necessarily. Everybody dabbles in different things, but I don't know. I think there's a diversity, obviously, in what you do, and also I really like the fact that you are connected, for example, with your blogging and the fashion blogging, because I think everybody does kind of sit in these little communities and doesn't cross over as much. I feel fortunate in doing what I do for Print Perfect that I get to, do what I love in the arts community, but I also have got to meet great designers and content creators through that too. And it doesn't keep me fixed in one place. But it does seem like everybody kind of has this niche that they stick to, and you're not doing that. So, kudos to you for that. Um, And speaking of which, let's move on to the project now, the Machinima Open Studio project, because you've been phenomenal in setting that up. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that is?
Well, the Machinima Open Studio project, which we call MOSP because it's a lot easier to say, is now housed in LEA 7. It originally was housed at LEA 20 as part of the Artist in Residence program. And I was lucky enough to get a grant there, and the idea behind it was to make a series of sets and locations, much like you would have in the real world for movie making, so that people could come film. Because one of those things that we have that makes it hard to make machinima and Second Life is that Linden Labs has a policy. And the policy is that you are supposed to get an okay from anybody that where you're going to film. And so that makes it difficult. When you're trying to make a movie, you've got an idea, you know what kind of location you need. You finally find a location that isn't yours most of the time, and then you have to get somebody's permission in order to film there. Mm-hmm. And so consequently, and sometimes you can write, and sometimes they answer and say, yes, of course, that's wonderful, and that works. And sometimes you have to start all over again because you never hear back from them or they don't want you to film there. And so this way, that cuts out one of those things that filmmakers have to worry about. There are now over 50 different sets and locations at MOSP, and with a wide variety. Today I just made a big fantasy build. There hadn't been any fantasy at MOSP, and I thought, well, we need that. So we now have fantasy, soon to open. And so it's fun, and photographers love it too. There's bloggers there all the time. Everybody's welcome. You don't have to be filming. You don't have to even be taking photography. You could just come and wander if you want to. It's open to everybody. It's also open to commercial projects. And so after the 6 months at LEA 20, I was approached and asked if I wanted to move it to a more permanent home at LEA 7. And I was very happy to do that, of course. And from there, it's probably tripled in size and certainly in quality. So LEA 7 is way better than LEA 20 was, and LEA 20 was pretty good too. So, yeah. So I'm very happy with how it's turned out.
That's definitely down to you making it, because ultimately both were the same blank sim and everything. So kudos with that. We have a friend on stage here. I'm just realizing there he goes. So how many people have made machinima there? Do you know? Are you tracking who's using it in any way?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not tracking. But I was sure you were going to ask me that, and so I do have something very positive to say. The first, to my knowledge, completely filmed at the Machinima Open Studio project at LEA 7. There have been some at 20. Was just done last week by a lady, and it's designed to help teach kids English. And it was the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's very cute. And Goldilocks is jumping on beds and doing all sorts of things. People can res their own props there. And so they for 20 minutes, and then they disappear and you have to res them again. Or you can contact me and I can help out with that. But so you can res your own props there and use the backdrops, or you can use things that are completely set up. Just depends on what you need for your storyline. And so I was very happy about that. I know that there have been other people filming there. I see them and I run into them, but I don't track them. If they're nice enough to let me know, then I appreciate that. But and things that are filmed at LEA7 do end up in the machinima archives. So that's a good thing if you want your machinima there.
What are the machinima archives?
Oh, there's a machinima building at LEA7 and also on the web, and there are different HUDs that you can either you can pick up at LEA7, you can pick them up here at the Moss Plot at the birthday celebration, and then you can watch all the films that have been made at the LEA Sims, and yours is number one at LEA1. And there's three different HUDs. There's MOMAC, and there's LEA, and there's University of Western Australia. And it's a wonderful way to see, and they go back. They go back years in some cases.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, so it's very cool.
Oh, by the way, so that the film that you just mentioned about the one that to teach children English,
so it got added.
Oh, great. Well, Mal Burns, who's being our little director behind the scenes here, has just told me in Skype that actually it's going to be one of the clips, the Goldilocks is going to be one of the clips shown on his show this Sunday, the Week in Review.
Cool.
So he's featuring that. Yeah. That's
Seems
great.
like a very nice lady, and she's working on another one. So I was very happy to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Freewee, you're right. We really should actually mention Lepician Liberty here because he made these HUDs and he's the person who was behind, he's a View TV and really sweet, really helpful, and because I was on the LEA committee at the time when this came on, and now Chic is on the LEA committee. I'll say maybe I passed my baton to her. So she, Lepician was very much behind getting, bringing Chic on board to help set this up. So, that's a point. Maybe a little bit of clarification because it's not that we just gave Chic her own sim. We asked Chic to come on the committee to, create this project in one of the core sims so that we were sort of broadening the remit because the land grants aren't the only thing. We wanted to make sure machinima be included in performance, and Lepician and now Chic are working really hard on that. Isn't that right, Chic?
That's right.
Yeah, what
he does all the techie stuff. Well, he does the techie stuff, and I do the pretty stuff, and that works out pretty well.
So if people wanted to, let's say you've got this open studio project, and let's say I wanted to make a film, but I want to do something, I don't have any money to have land or anything like that, and I want to do something that's completely not like any of the sets that you've built. Is there like a group that I could join that you could give me like trusted access or something, and I could go build my own set there for a specific project?
No. That's the short answer. That's the only answer, actually. No, and actually, people have asked this before. The idea is to have a place for people that don't want to build their own sets. Before I had LEA 20, I used to build my own sets over at the LEA Sandbox. And that's a wonderful place where people can go, and you can join the LEA Sandbox group, and you can have your sets up there for a whole week. And then they purge the sandbox, and you put it back up again, and you've got it for another week. I've made many films over there at LEA 5.
Oh, that's great to know. That's a really good suggestion because when you said the 20-minute auto return, I thought, oh my God, I know working with certain photographers, they need more than 20 minutes just to set up a picture, let alone a film. Oh, that's good. So that's why you're working on building all these different. And I noticed on the website, I'll actually put it in chat for people, and we'll make sure to put this on the blog too, because the website has really lovely pictures of some of what the various options are over there too. That people can use. So, I mean, it is really cool. And actually, it's funny, I was looking through it and I noticed things by friends like Isla's little Southwest building, Cheeky P. I was like, oh, I know that building. It was some pretty really good and really recent stuff. So it's not old crappy
Oh
building.
no,
It's
there's
really
things
nice
coming
new stuff.
every week. There's something new.
Yeah. Have you gone to anyone? This just popped into my head thinking about the fact that, I recognize some of the buildings that are out there. Do you go to content creators and ask them for sponsorship support? Like basically ask them to give you stuff for this project?
No, I don't do that. I
Just buy
am
it.
very lucky that before I even started working on LEA 20, I was already blogging for some of the better builders in Second Life, and I was already getting review copies all the time. And I had one of the things for me that was important is I had a huge inventory of wonderful things, which I could not put out on my 512 blog. And
Right.
so it seemed very wasteful. And I thought this was a great way to show off all the talent that we have in SL, the wonderful builders that we have, and for people to get to use their products. So I have a couple of times run into people that had bills that were just that I was lusting after, and they weren't for sale. If they're for sale, I just buy them. But sometimes there's bills out there that aren't for sale. And I have contacted a couple of content creators about that and asked them if I could buy it, and indeed just gave it to me.
Yeah.
But no,
Because they're so
I don't
generous.
ask for people. I don't get right. I don't ask for people. That it's just not in my personality to do that. But there's always something coming my way. It seems like. Today I got a
Well,
whole new set of fantasy stuff, so it's great. And I never know what's going to be next at Moss because I just like the machinima. I don't have a plan. It's whatever comes my way that works out. And amazingly, if there's a hole somewhere in a build, in a couple weeks, there's something shows up that fits in that hole. So it just works perfectly.
fantastic. So are there any good places where machinimatographers can go to promote their work that helps them to get more exposure? Like what would you recommend for a new machinimatographer who wants to get their work out there?
Uh, well, YouTube, of course, is the most popular, and everybody knows about that. And um, being in the HUDs, if your film qualifies, University of Western Australia, MOMAC, or LEA HUDs, is a good place to show. You can also list your machinima on like the machinima forums, and you can put it on AView TV, even if it doesn't fit into any of those categories. There's other categories that you can have to put your film up there, and there's also a Ning group, machinima. Well, I'll have to look that up, but there's a machinima Ning group
Okay.
where you can put your films up. I don't spend a lot of time um, worrying about showing off my films. I just like to make them, and so I'm probably not the best person to ask so far as the marketing goes because I'm really not a marketer. I mean, I'm happy that people see them and I'm happy that people like them, but it's not my primary purpose.
Well, we'll probably, as we're going to start wrapping up here. So if people have specific questions for Chick, can you go ahead and type them into chat?
I think I
And
have a whole bunch of them sitting here that I've been ignoring while I was talking to you.
well,
Oh
people
no,
have
that
been
was somebody
making
else.
Yeah, no, people have been
Okay.
making some comments along the way through the conversation about things that you've done that are awesome, and they think it's very cool that you can make your own props and various things like that. I haven't been
Oh well, I'll
reading
have
them,
to read
so
my chat log for sure.
so if there are specific questions for Chick about machinima or maybe about her blogging, anything where she got her wonderful top, anything like that, go ahead and put it into the local chat. And then I'll ask you the question I've been sort of asking everybody out here, most people out here this week. because the theme of SL10B is looking forward, looking back. I've been curious to hear from people. What are some things, or what's one thing, the first thing that pops into your head, that you loved, but that no longer exists here in Second Life, and you'd love to see come back again throughout your
Oh, that was
years?
easy.
Hmm.
Uh, I would love to see the learning facilities at the state that they were when I came into the world. There were
Oh,
so many schools and so many classes, and there still are a few, but they are very limited, and the quality is still there. But there just isn't the availability for the new folks to learn, and I don't. They're really very lucky if they do get to learn. If they find somebody that will teach them something. So that would definitely be what I would like to see come back. I didn't
what
even
do you
have to
think
think
has?
about that.
Oh, that's brilliant. I like that you said that. Like, and you didn't. What do you think has to be done to make that happen?
Well, why it went away was because Linden Labs stopped their backing it. And so if they would be backing education again, then it would probably come back. But there were lots of perks, and Linden Labs originally, I'm not sure if they were doing that when I was here, but I've heard anyway that they used to pay the teachers. So the
Yeah.
teachers got paid, and they gave free land to the schools, and so they were very big on education for a long time. And
Hey,
and then
Freeway.
they dropped that.
Freeway said they've restored the education discount.
Oh, have they? Oh, well, I'm so
When did
happy
they
to
do
hear that.
that? Quietly. Ah, do you know what? I might be able to go you one better and say that it never actually went away quietly. I do believe I know of a couple organizations that continued to retain their benefit. I think
Ah,
I do think it's a slightly more complicated issue than just the education discount going away. I think you're absolutely right about that. I know there are certainly a lot of people who left, and it was a real stupid move on their part to do away with that discount publicly. Um, but I also think that I think part of this has to do with um, kind of the usage and what they're we've talked about this a little bit this week with various people of what maybe Linden Lab sees or maybe doesn't see how this is used as a creative tool, and then how academia and schools, educational institutions are seeing, because as people are leaving, Silk has just said there's less new people coming in. um, I think there's a way in which maybe it's not fully understood what can be done here, and that's why I think promoting virtual art and people like yourself, what you're doing, getting out there, how this can be a creative tool is really important, because I think there's a short-sightedness that has happened, and as people have kind of abandoned it as maybe a tool that didn't work in some way. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but that's just my two cents there. 'Cause that's why I like to
well,
keep
I
this
don't
stuff
think
moving.
anything's going to. I don't think anything's going to change. But that was my answer, and I do
Yes.
see. I do see a question here. There's probably some other ones up there that I missed, but I do see one
Yes,
down
I
here.
was just going to
Uh,
repeat that one back
um,
to you, that Laban is asked, what hardware peripherals do you recommend for making good machinima? You kind of said that at the start, but maybe you could be a little
well, kind. So
specific. Yeah.
I don't use anything fancy. I personally don't use anything fancy. I use my mouse. I don't use a space navigator. I don't. For editing, I now use Corel Video Studio Pro 4, which is an oldie. They're up to 6 now. Um, and I'm very happy with that. I started out with Windows Movie Maker, which is free, and there's one for Apple too, and
Hmm.
Macs that's free. And it's a good place to start. There's no most people that I know started that way because there's less for you to have to deal with, for one thing, because it does less. And then I moved up to another one, which was like AVS for you or something, which was a package deal. And then I finally moved up to this other one, which is only $60 if you get it on a deal. So it isn't too expensive.
If you,
I know.
if you,
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you if you were able to have any video editing equipment and software, like money was no object. Would you continue using these, or is there something out there that you
I
think would be
probably
worth
just
it?
use these. You know, if I really, really wanted those other ones, I could buy them. But this does pretty much everything that I wanted to do. Although I did want to do, there was a thing that was very in style for a while, where you have an all black and white movie, and then there's one little bit of color. Um,
Hmm.
Showing up, and I did kind of want to be able to do that, and I found out that in order to do that, I had to have a $700 program or something. So I decided I didn't want to do it that badly, and
Right.
so but I can do lots and lots of stuff, and some things that other editors do that are beautiful, beautiful transitions and special effects and stuff. I can't do, and I can do some things that other people can't do. We talk about, she said, oh, that's lovely. And I said, well, it's just, oh, I don't have that, and they can do something else. So in order to do everything that you see, you'd have to have an awful lot of programs. So I think really your vision and your ability to capture your story is probably really more important than your editing software. Because if you've got all that other stuff that's good, you don't have to use a lot of fancy stuff in order to make your machinima worthwhile.
What do you think the perfect length of a machinima is?
I'm going to
I
go
think
with 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
okay.
That seems that well. I'm just laughing, and Freeway will probably be laughing along with me. That's the University of Western Australia's uh, length for their movies. And the first one I did, we talked about it earlier, Shades of Grey, was a short little guy, and I had to really stretch it in order to even make it like 2.5 minutes or something, because back then that was a really big project for me.
Yeah.
And now and when I first made one last year, I don't remember which one I made, and it was 4.5 minutes. I thought, how am I going to do 4.5 minutes? And now I can do 4.5 minutes easily, But honestly, when I start I was talking to somebody today who will remain nameless, and we were discussing the lengths of machinima, and we agreed that if your machinima was much longer than 4 minutes and 30 seconds, it really had to be good to keep your attention.
Yep.
And there are some out there that do, but there are plenty out there that do not. So cutting is a good thing. Every single scene that you take does not need to be in the film. I've thrown away some fantastic footage for the sake of the film, and I think that's important. So somewhere around there, 4 to 5 minutes, shorter's fine. I think you can make a fantastic movie in a minute
Yeah.
if you do it well.
Yeah, I think the medium really lends itself to a shorter film, and in fact, I've only seen one long machinima that I thought was great, and the artist for that machinima I'll be talking to here tomorrow night, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
So you can
okay,
come on
good.
down and talk to Miss Bruno. Which
Well, that
is,
will
I
be
think,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, standby. I think standby, but standby is a different, and this kind of leads to the question we just asked. I mean,
Right.
standby.
Yeah, I see that there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of like what I said before. Basically, nothing.
Wait, I want to repeat this question though, just for
Oh, that's right.
for people
Okay.
who watch later. So Freeway's asking, do you storyboard your shoots, and what kind of planning do you do? So
I do know how to do storyboards. I have done storyboards in real life, and I planned in real life too. But happily, I don't have to do that here. I can just kind of wing it, and it somehow seems to work. Um, Typically, aside from just if I'm filming art, and for a while I've done a lot of art films, I just go in and film the art and then put it together. And a lot of times it doesn't have a plot. Sometimes it sort of has a plot. If there's something that's going to be more complex, typically what I will do is I will figure out what the beginning is, and I will figure out what the end is, and then I will work on the middle. And I did that when I was in high school, believe it or not. That's how I used to write my stories when I would take writing classes. And I always got A's. So it works for me. I don't know that it would work for anybody else, but that system works well for me.
Fantastic. Chick, thank you so much. We're just out of time here, um, so I would just want to thank you so much for being here tonight and talking about this. I find it really interesting, and your work is just beautiful. And I'm glad that you're doing this project, but I hope you're spending all of some of this in-world time that you're spending making more films, and you'll continue to do so.
I'm planning on doing that soon. And thank you
Good.
very much for having me. I've enjoyed it very much.
But wonderful. Well, I've already given my plug for come back tomorrow night, 3 p.m. I'll be talking to Bruno, about being Bryn.